Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to another interview. I'm your host, Umar EducationWala from Karachi, Pakistan, currently doing a 4-year residential internship at Rehan College, where I'm learning AI, entrepreneurial, and leadership skills. I have a really amazing and wonderful guest today. Her name is Miss Svitlana Bulkina. She is an international English language teacher, trainer, and globally recognized CELTA and DELTA trainer with over a decade of teaching experience. She has been the director at Cambridge Grade Education Center, Kyiv, CELTA Freelance Tutor at International House Bangkok, Thailand, and International House Riga, Latvia, and the Director of Studies at English School Speak Up Learning Systems, Ukraine, Kyiv. Thank you, Ms. Svitlana. I am really honored to have you as my guest. Thank you so much for giving me your valuable time.
Thank you, Omar. I'm very happy to be here and thank you for inviting me.
Okay, Ms. Svitlana, can you please tell us a little about your early life, your country, and how your journey began in education?
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from Ukraine, Kyiv, and I entered National Shevchenko University in 2000, which makes me feel very old, but hopefully experienced. And my first major was in, we had this dual major, so it was in translation and teaching, which, to be honest, by the end of my studies made me think that I didn't know how to translate and I didn't know how to teach. So after the first 3 years of university, I won a grant and I went to study to the States for 2 years, and that was my first international experience, and it was so different from studying in Ukraine, because in Ukraine I'd say that professors are quite strict, and you were not back in the day, now it's different, but at least during my times you were not allowed to ask questions and things like that. And in the States it was completely different, questions were welcomed and things like that. So that what was my first experience when I actually improved my English and I got better at languages and education. And that at that time, back from the States, it got me thinking that I want to be a teacher. But since I had two initial degrees, teaching and translation, at that time translating and interpreting, it was much reputable, like fancy thing, and I did do some translated and interpreted at some big gigs like Paul McCartney's concert, for example, or things like that. But rest of the time you just translate in front of your laptop. At that time we didn't have any translation apps. It was like old school. You would be given a printed copy and you need to retype it. And to be honest, I wasn't seriously thinking about teaching, but then it was just something practical I wanted to do to get my CELTA and just to travel. So I was like, okay, I don't like teaching much, so I'm going to get my CELTA and travel the world. And then, I'm going to be back to interpreting or doing something amazing. And I don't remember, I think it was 2007 when I did my CELTA Cambridge certification in teaching English to speakers of other languages. At that time, it was called the certification was called Teaching English to Adults. And that really changed everything. This is when I just loved teaching on that course. And then I realized that it's my calling. And I've been teaching since then. And also, then I decided that I want to do a Delta course and I want to become a trainer and I want to train trainers. And then, 14 years later, I'm still here training and talking about training. Yeah. I hope I answered your question. Sorry, I scattered over 20 years of more, but that's pretty much it in terms of my early experience.
Yes, you answered it very well, and I was listening very carefully. And yes, I liked it, the way you explained everything. Miss Svetlana, can you For those new to CELTA, like what motivated you to specialize in teacher training rather than classroom teaching?
Mm. That's also a good question because I feel that I'm lucky. The way I balance I've been balancing it is that I've been doing both, because as a teacher trainer, I believe that I can't train someone how to teach if I haven't been in a classroom for a while. And I don't mean to criticize my colleagues or anything like that. I know there are some amazing trainers out there who they don't teach, they just train. But for me personally, it's like I feel I'd be inconsistent if I just trained and talked about training without being in an actual classroom. So I'd say that at this point in my life, I do 50-50, 50% of teaching and 50% of teacher training, doing CELTAs and DELTAs. Yeah, I was like, it's interesting because after I did my CELTA, this is when I started taking teaching very seriously. And I traveled and I taught abroad, and then I could really feel that, it sounds like you would say we can make a difference, but then I could see that I was making a difference traveling in Asia or in South America, and like being in some remote places, and just seeing that like someone learns and then they can make their life better, they can enter university they want and things like that. And then that made me wanna become an even better teacher, and that's when I did my delta. And delta is a diploma, which is much more serious. And I did my delta in 2010 and 11 at Teaching House New York. And actually it wasn't a very positive experience, because it's a very difficult, now being a delta tutor myself, thinking back, I'm proud of myself that I survived that, but it was a very challenging course. And I remember I did fail one of my lessons, which is fine. At that time, you could fail one. Now it's like it's possible to fail two and still pass the course. So I remember working, like it was raining in New York, everything dramatic, and I failed my lesson. And I was walking in the rain and thinking, this is my last teaching day. I'm going to do anything else in this world but teaching. Anyway, 14 years later, I'm still teaching. I've been enjoying it a lot. And I feel like the more I teach, the more I learn how to teach and how to help people and learners achieve their goals and dreams and things like that.
Okay, it was a really wonderful journey. And Miss Svitlana, for those new to CELTA, how would you explain what makes it unique?
Yeah, great question. So basically, before my CELTA, I had been teaching for 3 years. And I'm very honest, I talk about it in my seminars and workshops and on my courses. I was teaching for money. I wasn't very excited about the whole idea of teaching. But also now thinking back, I'm saying that because I didn't know how to teach. So I was just doing something, talking to people in English, using some course books without having any idea how I'm supposed to be using them. And then when it was like too much, I was like, gosh, I'm doing something I know nothing about. Then I found out about CELTA, and I did it at British Council Kyiv. And basically at that time it was an intensive 1 month course, full time. And that's changed basically everything, because on this course what makes it unique is the fact that you learn by doing. So you learn teaching by actually teaching, which makes it different. Because before that, I'd taken some online courses and things like that. You would just click through the units, methodology, and then you are back in the classroom and you still don't know what to do with your learners, or how to manage extraordinary or challenging situations. So basically what made it very special for me is that on each CELTA course, a candidate teaches 6 hours of teaching, which is like most of the time it's 45 8 45-minute lessons, and you are being observed by two different tutors and you are given feedback on your teaching, which makes it absolutely I'd say unique in terms of the fact that you are given feedback and you can act on it right away. So you teach your next lesson, whether it's, in my case, was next day, or for a part-time course, it would be next week. But you can act on it, on your tutor's feedback, and you can see if it works, and then it helps you shape your teaching and adjust your method and approach in the classroom, and that really made it special. And at that time, now we type our feedback and it's all like technology and things like that. But when I was doing my CELTA, we had to handwrite our lesson plan, and tutor's feedback also was handwritten. I still have these copies. And I don't know, I have goosebumps thinking back when you get feedback from your tutor and it says, what a lovely lesson. And you go like, oh my gosh, it's so special. So when I finished my CELTA and I continued with the students that I had before my CELTA, they all noticed the difference. Moreover, I had one one-to-one student who he decided to raise my pay just like that. We didn't discuss it. I didn't tell him that, look, I've done this qualification and now I think, I'm this amazing CELTA qualified teacher. But he was just, I remember one day I came to his office and he's like, okay, now you're going to be paid. I don't know. I don't really remember how much it was, but it was good raise. And asked him why, and he says something's changed and you've become and I still keep using that, you've become an even better teacher. And I thought, oh gosh, I wasn't very good before my CELTA, because it's very important when you're new to it and you're just starting it, it's very important to have very clear frameworks, methodology behind it, and CELTA is very straightforward in terms of like what we need to do as new teachers, how to do it, why we're doing it, and how our learners benefit from it. So for me, it was this like complete circle, and everything just made perfect sense. Yeah. And I've done it was, I think last week I finished 134 CELTA courses over the course of my career. And to be honest, I've trained very experienced teachers who, they've been teaching for like 20 years and then they're like, something's off. And I've trained lots of people who are just absolutely new to teaching. And first day, they just like were flustered, scared to death, hating it. And then on the last day of the course, they're like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going to be doing, or I want to be doing for the rest of my life. So, yeah.
Thank you, Miss Svitlana. You explained it really well, and I enjoyed listening all of it. And my next question is, in your experience, what misconceptions do candidates often have about CELTA?
Great questions. It's like a very nice summary for my CELTA and Delta here. Very good questions. So one of the misconceptions is that people think that by just registering and enrolling onto the course, the job's done. And that's not true, because it's one of the most reputable, I'd say, in my opinion, the most reputable pre-service teaching course, but it's really challenging. So a person needs to know that, like, for someone who has a family, other commitments, maybe work, that's not just the hours they need to attend per week, but that's lots of work outside the classroom, whether it's online classroom or face-to-face environment, and they need to plan for it, because it's very stressful when someone, and I remember I had so many sleepless nights on my course, just because before my CELTA, I was so efficient with the other things in my life, like to write a business report and other things. I was so quick and good. But then to write a lesson plan, I remember starting at 11 p.m. And then, time flies like that. And then you're like, oh my gosh, 4 a.m. and I haven't finished a 145-minute lesson plan. So a person needs to be good at time management, and also planning ahead, and also avoiding any other unnecessary stress. So I had some trainees who while doing the course, or they would want to do the course because they were going through some challenging time in their lives, and they would tell me like, oh, I'm going through something, bad, and they're like, maybe CELTA will help me like forget or get distracted. No. CELTA is when you need to be 100% focused, you need to be rested, your mind needs to be on it. It's not going to help you overcome some challenges or things like that. It's going to only add on stress. So since I feel like it's a one-time experience, a potential candidate should choose the time for their CELTA wisely, and just like really enjoy it, and make sure that their family knows, that their colleagues at work know, and that they are that they don't need to combine things. Because one of the mistakes in terms of my experience that I made was, at that time I was working full-time as a director of studies in Ukraine, and I told my director that I would be able to combine both. I told him, oh, just a CELTA, I don't think it's anything serious. And I told him that I could like take the course and then come to the office and work from like 8 p.m. till 11 or whatever, and I'm going to be fine just for 1 month. And on day 2 on my CELTA course, I remember I came to him and I told him, you can fire me. That's it. I'm not, this is impossible. It's either I'm doing the CELTA course, and then, I can also, I can contribute to the overall development of our teachers, or I'll need to resign now so I can finish the course. And I remember he was very supportive. He's like, yeah, I was very surprised when you told me that you were gonna do both. Unrealistic. Yeah. And another thing is that in terms of time management, I gave you this example with this lesson plan that I'll never forget. Oh, that lesson was really bad. So I planned it till 4 a.m. I got 2 hours sleep. I went to British Council. I was drained. I was exhausted. I delivered a very bad lesson because my lesson plan was good, but I didn't have any energy and I was tired to perform in the classroom. And I was like, no, I need to really plan these things. Plan your time. Make sure you get, I always talk about things like getting enough food, getting water, making sure you air your room if you're doing it online, having a stretch, and like things like that that are very important for surviving a CELTA course.
Thank you for explaining the question so much. And yes, you explained everything so well in a very good manner. And my next question is, how do you support trainees who lack confidence or face failure initially?
Right. Of course, in this sense, like support is something, when I reflect on it, is something I'd say quite subjective, because what you think support is maybe not what I think support is. But what's good is that CELTA caters to different trainees, different learners, and different teachers, and it's criteria based. So one of the things I do, I'm always very encouraging in my feedback, but I'm honest and straightforward. And there are so many different ways to say things. You can say, oh my gosh, this was one of the worst lessons I've ever, observed. Or you can say, okay, this lesson was challenging, which is fine, because the only way to learn to do something is to fail something first. Fail at delivering a good lesson, failing at clarifying a grammar point. And all my good lessons now are the lessons that used to be fail lessons back in the day. So it's very important to allow space for making mistakes, and also lowering my trainees affective filter. I don't want anyone to be stressed in my training, in my courses, just because I feel that there are other very important things in our life. The most important is our health, our life, our family. So I don't want someone to be stressed, because when my trainee is stressed, they can't notice. They can't be self-aware. They can't reflect on things, because they just have this anxiety and things like that. So I'm always very encouraging, and I use humor a lot because I believe that humor can help us overcome lots of things. And then I make myself available. So sometimes maybe I feel like if someone's stressed and they feel uncomfortable, they don't want to discuss it with other trainees. So then I would maybe follow up with an email or have some extra time with the trainee just to see what's happening. And most of the time it's something serious, and there are lots of like I have my notes, and maybe one day I'm gonna write a book about my CELTA experiences. But sometimes, I had teachers who had been traumatized by their teachers at school, and they're like, I'm doing these things because this is how I was taught. But you are saying that this is not how our learners benefit and things like that. So it's very interesting, like even for philosophical and reflective process that people go through. And then after a short meeting, someone goes like, yeah, that's been so helpful. And now I feel much better about actually changing some things. Yeah.
Those are really great methods that you shared, the encouragement, the straightforwardness, but in a really good, proper way, and being open to the inquiries, questions. Those are really great methods. Ms. Svitlana, my next question is, how do you see the future of English language teaching evolving?
That's a very good question, because I've been attending different conferences and seminars this year, and of course everyone's talking about AI these days, right? But I'm an old school teacher and trainer, and I enjoy using AI even in my teaching and training. But I believe that there'll be always room for a traditional classroom teacher because of that emotional human element that AI doesn't have. But I think that that's actually, as humans, as teachers, as educators, it's our responsibility to decide to what extent we're gonna let artificial intelligence into our classroom, to what extent it can benefit my learners rather than just make them, you know, less motivated. Or like, I I always give these examples in my sessions. So when I was studying at school and even at university at that time, I couldn't afford to have a dictionary, a physical dictionary. So during 1 week, I would note down the words I don't know, and then I would go, like, let's say on Saturday, I would go to the library to borrow a dictionary for half an hour. Somehow I remember that it was limited. You couldn't have it for a long time to translate those words. So when I have, especially when I work with teenagers these days, and like, oh, Miss Lana, I need to read the whole page. I always give them these examples of value of knowledge, and how accessible it is these days, and how much we take it for granted. So if we have this luxury, which is, I feel like luxury of all these beautiful online dictionaries, applications, artificial intelligence, and things like that, I think we need to know how to use them, and we need to know how to use them wisely. So it benefits us rather than just makes us lazy and less educated, let me put it this way. So I think not much is going to change. As I mentioned, I think it was a couple of months ago, I went to this conference in Greece, and I met with a couple of colleagues who were like, they didn't even want to use the word AI. They're like, this is bad, it's taking our jobs. And I'm like, it's all right. Why would it? So I believe there is room for everyone and everything, and I'm not scared of AI invading our our space.
Yes, you explained it really well. Yes, my next question is, what keeps you inspired after so many years in the field?
Yeah, to be honest, and it's funny enough, we're doing this interview like at the end of the year, when I'm generally, I'm like okay, I'm exhausted. I need to retire. I need to do something different. I need to start drawing or writing a book or things like that. But then I take a short winter break, and then it's been happening to me over over a decade now. I'm like, I need to train someone. I need to give someone feedback, and that's probably my genuine like satisfaction that I get when I share my knowledge, because I feel like when I share something I know about it even more. So it's all about sharing, and also about helping people change their lives. So for example, this morning I had a lesson with one of my students. I've known her since 2014, and she's been like, for some people it's easier to learn language, and she's been trying and working hard. And today she told me that she entered the university in the UK, and it's like, that's one of the things that just keeps me going. When some people, some students I have, they're like, no, I want to give up and things like that. And then you get this news. So sometimes I get an email from a teacher I trained 10 years ago, and they say, oh, I've been always thinking about you, and I set up my center somewhere, I don't know, in Thailand or Nepal or somewhere else. So probably that. But of course I don't want to like make it all sound there we like in teaching, in education, we work with people, and people are different, and sometimes there are people who like have their own expectations of you, and sometimes you ask me about support, and sometimes I had trainees who would expect me to be literally available 24/7, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but I need to sleep. Because if you want me to deliver a good session tomorrow, I need to get my good night's sleep. I need to, to have a life. And people would sometimes go like, what do you mean you're not available? It's been 7 hours. You haven't replied to my email. So things like that. So working with people, there is also this this balance that you want to strike for, and also have your boundaries. And sometimes I think that there is a very subtle line between sharing your knowledge, training someone for their own benefit, and helping someone so they're just sitting there nodding and not learning and becoming better. So that's that's something I've been still working on.
Thank you. The things you shared, the ideas and your insights were really great, and I learned too as well from them. One last question, Miss. If you could give one message to English teachers worldwide, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. I'd say don't change. And trust your instincts, because when I train teachers, either new teachers or those who've been teaching for quite a while, I feel like they get excited about this whole CELTA methodology and ideas, and they try to either change their personality or become different, and I feel like that's really exhausting. So one of the things I enjoy and can like, I used to teach and train for 10, 12 hours. I don't do that anymore, getting old. But I used to do that without being tired, just because I didn't need, and I don't need, when I enter the classroom, when I entered this room with you, I don't need to change my personality. I'm being myself. I'm very comfortable with myself. I'm also very comfortable. That would be the second word of advice. I'm very comfortable with not knowing some things. So when I just started this career, I would sometimes lie, when in a staff room someone says, do you know this, do you know this, and you go like, and then you go and look it up and you feel ashamed. So now I allow myself, and I think this is very brave and this is very nice, not to know things and want to know them and be very open about them. So it's all for me a bit like psychological, but it's all about taking care of yourself, and making sure that this job actually helps you improve and sustain your health, rather than resulting in some negative outcomes. Mm.
Thank you, Ms. Svitlana, for giving your valuable time and answering the questions in such a wonderful way. And I myself learned so much from you, and I'm really
Thank
honored
you.
to interview you. So, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
interview.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck with your projects and the other interviews. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for watching. I hope you liked it and learned a lot too. And I'll see you in the next session, the next interview with another guest. Until then, take care. Allah Hafiz.